Donald Trump's recently held second inauguration featured some very notable guest stars from the tech industry. Elon Musk, who bought Twitter in 2022, Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of the company that owns Facebook and Instagram, Shu Chu, CEO of TikTok, and Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, were all in attendance. I think you should be worried about this. Here's why. So I'm going to go ahead and answer the first question I know I will see in the comments section. Why are you talking about politics? Isn't this channel about, like, movies or something? Which, yeah, more broadly though, this is a channel about media. I grew up on what we call traditional media, movies, TV, music, that kind of thing, and that's where my passion is. Honestly, I've made several short films, I'm currently working on a feature, and I plan to keep going, but I also grew up in the very early stages of the internet as we know it, and by extension, social media. And that's where you get my interest in things like YouTube, which is obviously the only reason I'm able to talk to you right now. Social media is one of the most pervasive and dominant forms of media and means of communication in the world right now. Its relevance cannot possibly be overstated, and it would be insane not to talk about it. So I recently picked up a book called Speech Police: The Global Struggle to Govern the Internet. It seemed like something that I should probably read to be a well-versed, educated video essayist and human being. One of the main claims of the book is that the internet is centralizing. When it first came about, the internet was a fairly vast and seemingly limitless frontier. New websites were popping up every day. It seemed like the internet had something fun or interesting for you, no matter who you were. I can remember the tail end of this era. Like, I can kind of remember when blogs were a thing. I can remember playing Flash games at school, that type of thing. Gradually, though, some serious consolidation happened. Today, a few big sites, which are now mostly accessed via mobile apps, account for a huge proportion of total internet traffic. If you're a public person, your website doesn't matter nearly as much now as, for example, your Instagram profile. Show of hands, who visited Kamala Harris's website last year? Okay, now who saw a post from Kamala HQ on TikTok last year? If you want to get any attention in the public sphere, you can't just carve your own corner of the internet like you could in the blog era. The primary internet navigation method now isn't hyperlinks like it was in that time, it's scrolling. You have to use one of these platforms. That's why we're on the Pictures Up Productions YouTube channel and not on picturesup.productions, which is a real website that you can visit if you like. The internet is a great way for people to broadcast themselves when they might not have been able to do so otherwise, which makes the internet a mostly decentralizing force in the world, taking the power that comes with attention away from traditional institutions and towards individuals. However, corporate America, as it tends to do, found a way, and today the vast majority of the internet is an oligopoly shared between a few incredibly powerful corporations. On top of that, the fact that most of these companies are American and that is reflected in their terms of service and community guidelines and whatnot paves the way for a sort of digital imperialism. American values in media are especially amplified on a global scale, so what happens here really matters. But the centralization of the internet isn't all bad. Keeping everything together like this makes it a lot easier to find new things, hear about new stuff. This video probably got recommended to you by YouTube either because you're already subscribed or because YouTube thought you would spend a lot of time watching it. That way, of course, they can keep their viewership numbers up and sell a lot of advertising space. Ultimately, that is the first thing that all of these sites care about: selling your attention to advertisers. In media studies, we call this a dual product market. A product is being sold to you, but you are being sold to the advertisers. You are the second product that makes it a dual product market. So these sites, of course, prioritize what will hold a lot of attention from a lot of people. Unfortunately, what gets the most attention isn't always helpful or truthful. David Kaye calls this the virality of disinformation. The truth is often boring and complicated. It requires energy to engage with, but lies can be whatever you want. They can be fascinating, they can be salacious, they can be incredibly engaging. Even if you see some bullshit and decide to leave a comment like, hey, this isn't true, you've now proven to the platform that the thing you just commented on drives engagement. So left to its own devices, the internet can be an all too powerful tool for bad actors to spread false and misleading information for their own gain. And of course, emotions like anger and hatred are particularly good for engagement, which you will notice in the comment section of anything these days. With reference to neo-Nazi activity in Germany in the mid-2010s, Kaye writes, "There was something different here. Hatred spread virally without the moderating factors of traditional media media and the sunlight of societal disapproval. David Kaye served as the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the promotion and protection of the right to freedom of opinion and expression, which is a long-ass job title. In the book, he argues that these few corporations, which now own the vast majority of the internet, wield entirely too much power over how content is moderated and censored. He advocates for industry oversight, accountability, transparency, and, quote, human rights standards as content moderation norms. These companies simply should not be allowed to throw basic human rights under the bus in the name of profit and influence. They are no longer just companies that can, quote, hide behind the curtain of corporate competitiveness. They are, as Kaye writes, stewards of public space. They are corporations, sure, but they bear a considerable and unprecedented responsibility considering the fact that they own the platforms we use to communicate and disseminate information. Now, nobody's advocating for direct and total government oversight of the internet's biggest platforms. That's obviously not great either. Kaye gives many examples of nations where this kind of thing quickly became a weapon of authoritarian regimes. I personally envision a coalition, a lot like the United Nations, comprising a variety of different countries and cultures with the shared goal of preserving human rights, including but not limited to the right to free speech. You might be saying, so if governments should be getting involved in content moderation, isn't it good that Trump is forming alliances with social media billionaires? To which I am going to have to respond with an incredibly loud, incorrect buzzer. Last year, a federal judge ruled that Google has an illegal monopoly over online search. You can tell they have a monopoly because people don't say look it up anymore, they say Google it. Reportedly, Trump is likely to fight back against this litigation so that competition will not be restored to the free market and Google can continue engaging in its illegal monopolistic activity. That is what all these guys want out of Trump, the ability to continue wielding undue influence over the World Wide Web. And they've learned that a little bit of flattery is all that it takes to get on Trump's good side. We saw this when Mark Zuckerberg allowed the president-elect to bully him into removing fact-checking from Facebook and Instagram. Notice I didn't say improving fact-checking, just complete removal. I personally think if you were a person who really cared about the truth and you genuinely thought that fact-checking was flawed or biased, you would want to make sure that the systems in place functioned better. But why would someone really want fact-checking just outright removed from a platform of public discourse? Would it maybe track that the very same person's campaign backed out of a 60 Minutes interview because they planned to fact-check him? I know his official stance is that fact-checking mechanisms tend to have biases towards left-wing politics. Or could it be because that person lies all the time? Honestly, the same goes for when Elon Musk purchased Trump's favorite platform, restored Trump's account, and showed us all what happens when the guardrails are off. I made a video about the TikTok ban that was almost immediately outdated when the platform made its glorious return the very next day, making sure to thank President Trump on its way back through the door. Here's the thing. TikTok was back before Trump was in office. Trump did not bring back TikTok through some sort of executive action. The timing alone tells us that this was some sort of backroom deal, which really makes you wonder, what did Trump get out of it? Was it just the optics of being the guy who brought back TikTok, despite the fact that he was literally the first person to suggest getting rid of TikTok? Or was there something else on top of that, considering the fact that a lot of people get their news from TikTok, which is, I mean, obviously not great on its own, but we should still be worried about the fact that the company has made private arrangements with the president that we don't know about. If this doesn't occur to you as the sketchiest shit you have ever seen, I do not know what qualifies as sketch at this point. I don't think it should come as a surprise to anyone that Trump is willing to do special favors for those who will bend to his will, but we should be concerned about how wholeheartedly the social media industry seems to have embraced it. Even if you love Trump, and if that's you, this part of the video is for you, okay? Is this really the precedent that you want to set? That the President of the United States plays such a major role in how we disseminate information online? What about when a Democrat gets elected into office and does the same thing? Are you going to finally notice then? In what world is it good for such a small group of individuals to exert such power over our very means of communication? Where is the line between that and straight up oligarchy? And with that, I have run out of things to say. I will see you in the next video, and until then, I'm Sam Morgan, and this is Pictures Up.